Welcome to Varsity Nutrition. I'm Derek Marks, and in this Ergogenic Aid episode, we're going to talk about caffeine. Caffeine is probably the most widely used and maybe the oldest ergogenic aid that we know of. Caffeine is simply a stimulant. It stimulates or activates our nervous system. By doing so, it increases metabolism, both fat and carbohydrate metabolism. That's why you get a little bit hot sometimes after you take caffeine. It's increased metabolism. And as most of you know, it also helps increase your focus, alertness, and your motivation. The benefits for caffeine are kind of wide-ranging. Generally speaking, it's agreed that most of the benefits, or maybe the strongest benefits, are psychological. When an individual takes caffeine, that increased motivation, that increased focus can lead to better efforts on the field, on the training pitch, wherever you're at. And so caffeine has been shown to improve strength slightly, endurance also slightly, but really it's that psychological boost that caffeine gives us that seems to have the best effect on performance. There are several drawbacks with caffeine. First is the more caffeine you consume, the more you need to get the same effect. So caffeine habituated people are those who need to drink or consume a lot to even know that they had caffeine. That's kind of a big negative because at a certain level, too much caffeine is too much caffeine. Individuals who are sensitive to caffeine, so maybe those who aren't habituated to it and have taken a little bit too much, jitteriness, so kind of getting overstimulated, not being able to focus and being overly hyped. Some people get gastrointestinal issues, headaches, and even from a sort of excessive chronic use standpoint, something called adrenal fatigue can develop. And that doesn't happen in everybody, but your poor adrenal glands are cranking out the hormones when you get stimulated, and over the long run, overuse of caffeine can play a role in that. Who is caffeine for? This is a trickier one. It's for most athletes. I mean, depending on the sport that you do and how you would benefit from that improved motivation, that improved feeling of having energy and focus, it really does depend. I don't think it's great for youth athletes. I feel like the longer you wait to even try caffeine, the better. If you can avoid it completely, I don't think you're missing out on anything. I think the ideal situation, if you haven't used caffeine, don't start consuming it on a regular basis, but just use it sporadically before a big event, before a competition. That way you won't get habituated to it. That way a small dose will give you a nice effect. Otherwise, you end up going down that pathway where you're just going to have to consume more and more. So how do you use it? Dosing varies, right? And so depending on your tolerance, generally speaking, like a 200 milligram dose should be enough to get most people going. That's usually, one Vivarin or no-dose capsule. Pre-workout supplements like to throw caffeine in there. Please read the label on those. Some of them put as much as 350 milligrams in one dose. That's a lot of caffeine. And if you're not paying attention and you have an energy drink on top of that has another 200 milligram dose, you are stacking caffeine on top of caffeine, and that is a lot. So be really mindful about how much you consume. But, if you can get away with a 200 milligram dose, if you're a coffee drinker, maybe 2 cups of coffee or 1 really strong cup of coffee, that's a good dose. If you're in the 400 to 600 milligram range, that's a lot. When you should take it, pre-training is ideal. I mean, it's almost essential. Peak blood levels of caffeine usually occur about 30 minutes after consumption. So within 30 minutes or an hour of a competition is probably the ideal time to take it if you're going for those psychological benefits, that motivation that you get with it. So, what kind of caffeine should you take? And so as already mentioned, there's a bunch of different forms. You can find it in foods, drinks, pre-workout supplements, and there's those over-the-counter pills like the Vivarin and the no-dose. Very personal choice. For me, the ideal is that you're taking caffeine in a controlled way. Like I mentioned before, if you don't even know you're having an energy drink plus a pre-workout and all of a sudden you're at 500 plus milligrams of caffeine and didn't know it, that's not ideal. So at least my ideal approach with caffeine is knowing how much you're taking and be consistent with that dose. So yeah, I take my pre-workout. It has 200 milligrams in it. That's the only caffeine I need and I'm good. Find something that works for you. Sometimes coffee and coffee drinks are quite variable depending on who brewed the coffee and how whatever other ingredients that they put in it. So, like I've already mentioned, I don't really like adding caffeine to the energy, to the pre-workouts and to the energy drinks themselves. It ends up stacking caffeine on top of caffeine, and sometimes people aren't aware of it. So I prefer to add caffeine on my own as as a tablet or through coffee. The tablets are okay. The Vibrans and the NoDoz are typically 200 milligram doses. Black coffee is great. Once you start getting into coffee drinks and you got all the sugar and other things added to it, they end up being a lot more than you bargained for. But if you just drink black coffee, a good strong cup of black coffee is usually around 150 milligrams of caffeine. But it is harder to control the dose when you're drinking brewed coffee. Thank you.